Hey, 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 Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. Listen, the goal of this podcast is to help you create a life and career that gives your life meaning and fulfillment. I want your life to be full of everything, lacking nothing. And so we started this season going after the four pillars that lead to ambition. The goal of you is to lead with ambition this year. And so I'm walking you through the four pillars. Yes, I'm going in out of the gate because I think this one's going to be longer than the rest of them because I have so much to give you. So, those of you that are here with me on YouTube, you see the slide on the screen. If you're not, go to www.nrjnetwork.com. I encourage you to watch. Join me on YouTube because anytime again, I'm probably say this every episode, but I'm here with you and it's me and you. When it's just me and you, I'm always going to show slides because I'm not here for what you already know. I want you to be able to take what you learn and implement it. So you should be taking notes. Hopefully, I'm stepping on some toes sometimes and giving you some great aha moments. And so, a couple things I want to hear from you in this episode. What is your greatest takeaway? I want you to share it. Stop right now and share it because somebody in your network needs the insight that we're talking about just in this first series in this season. All right. So we've gone through pillar 1 and pillar 2. So if you haven't listened in, go back and watch it. Why? Because as you set your big, hairy, audacious goals for this year, if you don't understand what I mean by that, go watch episode number 1, right? Go watch Get a Promotion, pillar 1. And it was really the promotional playbook. That's what I talked about. Listen, as you go after whatever it is, whether your goal is to get a promotion or make a career transition, whether it's now or at some point in your career, these tools will help you. And it begins to get you positioned to go after that big, bold move. Listen, we should always be working toward the last 2 pillars that I'm going to start in this episode. So the first one is leadership growth and impact. Listen, leadership growth multiplies impact. I'm going to say that again. Leadership growth multiplies impact. If I take it from a sports analogy, Venus and Serena, they weren't okay with just doing great on their level when they were in, I think it was high school when they were in Compton. Their father realized he had coached them as far as he could take them, and he went and found them a professional coach. Because leadership growth amplifies impact. It really does, you guys. Think about anybody you greatly admire, even if I dare I say Oprah, who just popped in my mind. When Oprah's network failed, when she first started, she didn't quit. She found another network executive and asked him to coach her. Leadership growth amplifies impact. The whole network is one of my favorite networks now. So I wonder who you could be, what you could do if you didn't quit when things got hard. Talked about this I think it was last episode. I'm going to talk about it here in much more detail. So I don't think you're here by coincidence. I think you are here listening to this episode because it's your time to amplify, to make bigger, to grow, to expand who you already are. Yes, I'm going out of the gate. So to do that, you've got to do a couple things. I'm going to talk about this as we look at this road here toward leadership growth and impact. Okay. So I'm going to give you the 4 things out of the gate that you absolutely must do to be able to grow and to have the impact that you could have. Listen, your growth is not just about you. It's about your team. It's about, listen, when you grow, your business grows or your department grows. When your business or your department grows, then all the people you serve get served on an amplified level. Let me give you another example. If I think about, before I start going into this, if I think about Apple, right? Now I had the first Apple computer. Do you guys remember those Apple computers, a little box, big old computer that used to sit on your desk? That they stayed there and didn't amplify their growth and reach and invest and grow, then I would not have my iPhone, which I love so much. I wouldn't have a MacBook, which is how I record my episodes. Hello, MacBook. I'm looking at you getting to see me because of my MacBook. Have an Apple Watch. All of these are growth, which means Apple has increased its impact year over year, month over month. Listen, even sales goals in companies is about increasing your impact. Because when you sell what you do to more people get blessed by it. Are y'all getting me? So that's really what this conversation is about. It's about not settling. You guys hear me say this a lot. Many people get fired in their position because they settle and they're not looking at how can they push to the edges and grow that business. Not just because you want to make more money, but again, it's about increasing impact, y'all. So the first thing you've got to do if you're going to lead or if you're going to have leadership growth and impact, period, first thing you've got to do on the road is have commitment. I'll give you 4 things. Commitment. Now, why does commitment matter? Now, I want to make sure you understand what I mean by commitment. See, commitment is a sustained, deliberate pledge to prioritize and act on a goal, backed by concrete plans, resources, and accountability over time. Let me say that one more time for the people that aren't watching on the slides. Commitment is a sustained, deliberate pledge to prioritize and act on a goal backed by concrete plans, resources, and accountability over time. Now, so you can be interested or committed. You really could. So, interested means a positive inclination or curiosity about something that may inspire action, but lacks firm plans, resources, or accountability. So let's say I'm really interested in fitting into these clothes in my closet. Y'all, I'm always going to use health. I'm going to use health analogies already. I got to find a new analogy, but uh, that's my current area that I got to grow in. Or here's a better example. What if I said, okay, I'm interested in AI, but I don't take the time to learn about AI and look at how I can implement it in what I do. Interest means you can pretty much do nothing. You might learn a little bit about it, but you don't implement anything. Commitment means I'm committed to it. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to grow in this area so I can therefore use it in my career. Listen, here's another area. It might just be an occurrence, a one off event or sporadic action that happens without intention to repeat, not part of an ongoing plan. So you could do something sporadic one time. But unless you are committed to it, it's not going to take action and fully be implemented. That's why commitment matters. Okay. So I really want you to get this out of the gate is that it's going to take you being committed to it. The second one, so you got to choose in everything, commitment, interest, or occurrence. Probably would be helpful if I looked at my slides. Listen, you guys see my slides are down here. I have notes down here. I got my study Bible over here. So I get excited and I forget to look down in my notes. so listen, you can be committed, interest, or it could just be an occurrence. So the great thing you desire to do in your business or your career, the great shift that you want to make. Again, whether it's this year or maybe you're looking at a shift, maybe you're going to retire in 3 years. You've got to make a plan and you've got to be committed to it. You can't be interested in retirement, then you retire with no plan. Not bueno. Not if you want to live the way you live now in retirement. You got to retire with a plan, which means you got to be committed to make that plan real. Okay. So that's step 1 in leadership growth. Step 2 is the 4 P's of leadership growth. I'm going to walk you through these 4 P's. And some of this is going to be a repeat from some of my previous. So you're going to see how now the previous conversations I've had in pillar 1 and pillar 2 make sense here. But there really are 4 P's of leadership growth. I want you to really take some time to look at where you are in this journey. Okay. I want you to really get clear on where you are in this journey. The first P is purpose, of course. By the way, this is why I gifted you with the Blueprint to Meaningful Work, that ebook. If you didn't get it, let me write a note to myself to put it in the show notes, right? Book show notes, because I didn't know I was going to talk about it here. And a lot of the conversation I had at the beginning of last season was around your purpose and being clear on it. Because listen, when you understand your why, it helps you clarify your goals. It helps you clarify the actions you're going to take. So even when you start thinking about the purpose of your big goal around your transition in your career or your promotion, I want you to ask yourself, what distinct impact do I want to create in the next 12 months? What distinct impact do I want to create in the next 12 months? So when you shift that career, maybe it's going to have a bigger impact for your family. Maybe it's going to have a bigger impact for your retirement, but you got to be clear on what's the purpose of it. What's the purpose of learning AI? If I use myself for an example again, working at a college, learning that I can have I'm the director of career services, learning that I could take some of the things that my career counselors are doing and have AI do it so that they can do more strategy with my students instead of just teaching. I can have AI do that. You guys get that? Try not to go deep into the weeds because I can teach just on that. So when I do that, I think of the number of students that they can then serve more, deeper, with helping them find a career. Y'all get that? So again, what distinct impact do you want to have in the next 12 months? That's your purpose. That's where you need to get clear on why you want the promotion, why you want. Maybe your purpose is I want to be able to pay for my children to go to college in full, their tuition. I want to pay it in full. I want to be able to go to my son's every game that's away because he plays a sport and he's going to go to college. And maybe having this new career move is going to let you do that. You got to be clear on the impact this move is going to make. And by the way, if you don't have a journal, let me encourage you to get a journal and sit with a lot of these questions I'm asking you, because some of them are not on the surface. Some of them won't be easily answered by you, not if you're doing something you've never done before. Which leads us to number 2, which is perspective, right? You've got to know what's in your blind spots. So this is where having conversations with people as you grow and getting clear on feed forward, all the things. All of that is important because it begins to give you perspective. If I give you an example here, and I know I've said this on another podcast, I remember I had somebody that worked on my team, and this was probably 30 years ago, probably. And I was a deputy director of a training division, and she was one of my best trainers. And I used to meet with each of my trainers individually every week. And every week she'd come in my office crying. I'm like, girl, go finish crying and come back when you're ready. And she would never come back. It wasn't until the week that I pulled out the Kleenex box, I sat it there and I said, tell me what's coming up for you. See, my blind spot is that I'm the kind of person that I grew up where you don't get emotional at work. You don't bring your emotions with you to work. Now, of course, we're human and emotional intelligence is different. But I'm not gonna come to work crying. And if I am, I'm going in the bathroom, in the stall, and closing the door and have my own moment, me and Jesus. But for me, I had to shift my perspective. What was in my blind spot is when I sat with what was coming up for her, I began to see how I could help her get through it. Just from one conversation, y'all. As I shifted my perspective about what was coming up or how I should deal with it, it shifted who she be at work. Her training began she became such a phenomenal trainer, so much so that she got offered a job somewhere else. Mm. So I coached her out of a job, which to me is a good thing because that's growth for her and for me. So, what might be in your blind spots that you don't see that you might need to learn or overcome or work through? Really important aspect for you to look through. So, that's P number 2. Number 3 is practice. How will you practice this new behavior? When you learn something different, you got to do something different. So the reason I keep talking about health is because I'm trying to practice a new way of eating. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've learned this whole macro thing. That was a new perspective and really counting macros, which I hate to count. But guess what, y'all? I joined Weight Watchers. The Weight Watchers app has macros, so I can put all the food I eat and put my macros in. So that helps me practice this new behavior. Oh, by the way, I realized I wasn't eating enough. Sidebar. So again, you've got to begin to look at what is this new behavior. So for me, just giving me a menu, which my trainer was doing that, wasn't enough because what if I go out and I'm not eating from that menu that day? But my Weight Watchers app, I can put that information in. Does that make sense, you guys? So you've got to look at what stretch assignments are going to help you practice this new thing you've got to work through. Another example for me is I knew that God was calling me into this career development space at the end of 2024. So what I did was I went and got certified as a career development coach. What's interesting is my professor kept saying, and why are you in here? But it was helping me look at what I was doing in a different way. I didn't need the tools, dare I say, because I already knew them, but it helped me shift the perspective. Hello, the second P, and help me frame the way I was doing what I was doing in a different way. Because I have been out of academia since 2012. There was no such thing as career development. At least I hadn't heard of it when I left in 2012. And here I am back. So there were things I needed to learn and new concepts and again, a lot of the information was the same, but it's been recalibrated and some new things had been added. So I had to get new perspective and practice. And then as you do the first 3, you always want to do the 4th P, which is proof. You want to measure. what you're learning, how you're growing, what you're implementing. How is it either moving the needle forward or are you stuck? Because maybe you need another tweak that you don't see. This is where KPIs and team metrics and all the things are needed. This also helps with retention, by the way, because when you begin to look at some of your team, and maybe if your perspective is you want to help your team grow, and you individually with each person on your team, and you begin to see things from their perspective, and you start making some shifts and you start to practice this new behavior. What you might implement is monthly meetings to ask how things are going. So you can begin to see how you're retaining your employees because you're making the shifts. And so, much like me, I'm tracking my food every day. You might need to track your movement every day, every week. So, again, this is why I'm going to encourage you to get a journal so that you can sit with what changes you are making. So again, the 4 P's of leadership growth are purpose, understanding why. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to grow in that arena? 2 is perspective, really understanding maybe there might be some areas of blind spots that you need to look at. Practice. How do you begin to shift that behavior? What work do you need to do to grow? And then proof, looking at what's happening. Metrics, goals, right? So I'm going to give you a tool that's going to help you with this. This is really moving us into number 3, leadership growth charter. Now, I'm going to tell you, I created this charter years ago, working with a client. And so I never intended to give it out loud. So I'm going to walk you through it. So by the way, this is a copy of it. It's going to be down, linked in the show notes so you can download it. Okay. I'm going to show it on the screen. But here's the thing I want you to get. It's so much. There's no way you can probably see that on the screen. So I'm really going to walk you through it. Okay. So I want you to block out 60 minutes a week, a month, it's up to you to really look at all the actions you want to take and make your charter, and then 15 minutes a day to reflect on how you're doing. Okay, so here are questions you're asking yourself. Today I commit to. So let's say I commit to implement AI in my division. You write the start date, which is today, and then it says review date, 90 days. So 90 days from now, this is all on the sheets you guys are seeing there on the screen. And again, it's linked in the show notes. So you can download your PDF version. Review date. So 90 days from now, you want to look at review where you are. Give yourself 90 days to implement it. This is why, by the way, when you start a new job, you always start with a 90-day plan. At least I do. When I started my new job here, I did a 90-day plan. I did all the things I said I was going to do and added some extra things. Because it also helped me begin to realize the goals I set and all the things I needed to do to get there. Okay. Now you'll realize the leadership growth charter walks you through the 4 P's. First is purpose. Why does this matter? Impact goal, 1 sentence, who, what, change, by when. Okay. Why this impact matters to me, my team, my org, my customers. Any way you want to answer that. Those are the 2 questions to answer under purpose. Your impact goal, 1 sentence. And then why this impact matters to either me, to my team, to my organization, what have you. That's purpose. Okay. Now, by the way, it's only 1 line under each of these. So here's where your journal can come in handy. Then you can keep this quarter over quarter and keep using it. You can write this out in your journal. Perspective, what I need to see or learn differently. Again, key blind spots or assumptions to test. My assumption is that, I'm going to tell you about the no crying at work. See, the thing that's interesting is in life, we have different people that have different perspectives. When you can begin, especially as a leader, to see other people's perspective, it shifts everything. Great example of this, if I use my marriage for an example, my husband and I, so listen, I am a cooker. I will cook. I will make phenomenal meals, but I hate cleaning up. Hate it. Can't stand it. My husband loves it. So when we first got married, being a daunting new wife, I was doing both and half doing cleaning up. Now, I'm not talking about straightening up. I'm talking about like washing dishes, that kind of thing. So listen, I will rinse a dish off and put it in the dishwasher. If the dishwasher doesn't get it clean, I'll wash the dishwasher again. I'll run it again. Right? Because I'm not committed to washing dishes thoroughly. I'm just not. I've had a dishwasher since the 7th grade. I'm cool with that. My husband, on the other end, will wash the dish entirely and then wash it again in the dishwasher. Different perspectives. So guess what? I no longer wash the dishes. I let him do it. He loves it. He's great at it. That's double cleaning for me. And see, when my husband would find things on the glass, he would say, who put this dirty glass in? What you mean who? It's only 2 of us that live here. Who else would it be? So I started saying Jesus. Jesus put that in there. Yeah, he didn't think it was funny the first time I said it. Second time he got it. So listen, that is what we began to learn. That was what was different for us. And so his gift is to wash dishes. So baby, have at it. Doesn't mean I never do it though, but I do it probably 5% of the time. Okay. So as you begin to look at your perspective, you also want to write the sources of your input. Okay. Like, what do you need? For me, I told you I went and got certified as a career development coach. Even though I've been doing career development for 30 years, I went and got certified. So that meant I went through National Association of Career Development, looked them up, looked up the class, paid for it. I did all those things. Those were sources of input. Okay. And this also could go under practice. Well, actually, I should have put source of input was to get the certification. Practice is now target behavior to develop. So I knew I wanted to get certified. Weekly practice plan. So literally, I had to put in my calendar when I was going to do my homework because I was still working, y'all. I still had my own business that I was doing. So I put in my calendar every day when I was going to read and do my homework. Stretch assignment, a real world experience. So my stretch assignment was starting this podcast last season. This was actually I made this part of my homework in my certification. So again, you want to begin to look at what support and accountability do you need. So as you practice, as you start to take the specific behavior or habit and grow it, you want to look at what do you need to grow it? Again, using Venus and Serena for an example, they needed a new coach. Sometimes you need to add new experiences, new ways of looking at the same thing you're doing in order to heighten it. And then last is proof. How I'll measure progress. What are leading indicators? So for me with my health journey, listen, if I lose 2 pounds a week, I'm happy. I'm trying to lose 10 total. I think I was trying 20 last year, 25 if I'm honest. I'm down 15. I got 10 more to go. And then I'll be back so every week I'm looking. And over the holidays, I let myself cheat. So I went up a couple, but I didn't measure my progress during the holidays. Shame on me, right? So leading indicators, what behavior signs do you want to track weekly? And by the way, I'm reading on the sheet. Outcome metrics. So your KPIs, right? How often are you checking all the things? So the other thing you can do after you set your purpose, your perspective, your practice, and your proof here on this worksheet, it says 90-day milestones. So if you want to put some milestones for yourself that you might not have written out, I want to suggest you do that. The more specific you get, the more you will be able to tell how far you've gotten on your track with your charter. I'll tell you why I call it a charter in a minute. Then it's reflection notes, weekly wins. I'm always going to suggest that you celebrate what you've done great, and adjustments, because you're not going to be perfect and things aren't going to happen right. And then my commitment. So one sentence I will hold myself to at the end, and then you sign it and date it, because this charter is a commitment to yourself. The reason I called it a charter is because, listen, this is what it said according to Webster's Dictionary. A charter, the word charter is a written instrument or contract executed executed in due form. So that's really why I called it a charter, is because I really want you to make a commitment to yourself. And when I created this, I don't know how long ago I created this, and I started working with my clients through this, it helped them be committed because now it's in writing and you can see it. This is why I believe vision boards got so popular, because when you have a vision and you can see it and you put it in a place where you see it often, it helps you stay active toward moving toward it. Okay. So now that we've walked through the first 3 areas that you need to grow in your leadership leadership growth and impact, which is commitment, the 4 P's of leadership growth, and then the leadership growth charter that helps you move your leadership growth forward. Let's end this podcast with talking about the barriers that could stop you and how you overcome the barriers to growth. All right. So with that, get your pen out because I'm getting ready to go through and get ready to give you some Bible. This is where Jesus comes in, right? So the reason I have a mindset picture there, a mind picture there, is what people don't realize is if you're going to be hindered in any way, it's going to be your mindset that stops you. So the first thing that could hinder you, that could stop you in your tracks from going after the growth and impact you did not just desire, you're meant to make this year, is the first thing is time. The first thing is time. Now, I talked about this in the Equalize Your Life episodes, or work-life balance hack episodes in season 1. Encourage you to go back if this is an issue for you. Any of these things, actually. So I think I went in deep in a different way. It's time. Listen, there's a Bible verse that says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. That's Ephesians 5:15 through 16. I'm going to read it one more time. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. And so, y'all know, I looked this up in my Tony Evans study Bible, and here's what it says underneath this. This is why I love this study Bible, by the way. It breaks down, because I'm like, days are evil. What does that mean, right? Here's what it says. We must live not as unwise people, but as wise. How? By making the most of the time. You know, how often do you not plan out your days and you just do whatever, whenever, however, and you look up and your whole day has gone by and you've gotten nothing done because your day has not been planned out? So if you want to get anything done, you heard me talk about this a few minutes ago. I literally would put in, when I was working on my certification last year, I put that time in my schedule every day. So I couldn't take client meetings. I couldn't coach people at those times. I had to put it and commit to that time so I could get it done. So you're not too busy. You're not. You just got to be able to allocate the time you need to do whatever it is you greatly want to do. Again, this I talked about this in work-life balance hacks. I walked you through my Equalize Your Life system. If this is something you're dealing with, listen. I created that Equalize Your Life system when I had just gotten married. I was adjunct professor, not at one university, but at two, and I was running my business. And my bonus kids were little. So, I was trying to cook and do all those things too, right? And how was I able to do all those things and still hang out with my girlfriend, still work out, do all the things, and never feel overwhelmed or burned out? I reclaimed my time, as Auntie Maxine says. Reclaiming my time. Y'all remember that? So some of you need to reclaim your time because you have things on your schedule that you have no business doing, or you're giving your schedule away to other people instead of you reclaiming your time. All right. So that's the first area that could be your barrier is time. The second is fear. Oh, this one is a long one, y'all. I'm gonna try not to go deep into it, but I wouldn't be a good coach there, I say. And some of y'all, this is coaching for some of y'all, right? If I didn't go through this is what's gonna make this episode longer. But I need you to understand this, because many people, this is the very area that you are stuck in and you don't realize it. So fear requires that you conquer your giant. Now, let me go back. Fear requires that you conquer your giant. So I'm saying that from David. Do you guys know the story of David and Goliath? I mean, before I go into that, I was reading an article in Huffington Post that said 85% of the things we're afraid of never happen. And the 15% that happens, we often discover we can handle better than we thought we could, or we learn something from the experience. But 85% of the things that we're afraid of never happen. So with that said, fear requires that you conquer your giant. So those of you that know the David and Goliath story, that's what I'm coming from that. But I want to take this conversation on a deeper level. So everything I'm going to read from you is in Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 17. Okay, because I didn't put all of this on slides. 1 Samuel chapter 17. So let me read this. This is 17:46 through 47. Says, this day the Lord will deliver you into my hand. This is David talking to Goliath. And I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the bird of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly will know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. So what's David saying? I'm going to conquer you. I'm going to take you down. And there are really three things that David did here that will help you literally conquer your giant. And the giant is fear. You think David was afraid? If David was little, like, let's say, I used to say like Webster. I'm not aging myself, like Webster. If you don't know who Webster is, please Google it. If David was little like Webster and the Philistine was like the rock times 10, you think he wasn't scared? But his commitment to his community was bigger than his fear. And for many of you, you're letting fear be bigger than your commitment to the shift that you could make in your career, in your organization, in your family, in your life. So here's step one. You got to remember who you are. As I say, this reminds me of one of my favorite scenes from Black Panther when King T'Challa was down, y'all. This was the first one. If you didn't see it, spoiler alert. If you didn't see it, where you been? You late. Go see it. Anyway, spoiler alert. King T'Challa is down, and Jabari, the Bear King, is getting ready to win. This is the first fight. And Angela Bassett says, "Remember who you are." Well, in essence, and then T'Challa got up and won. But here's the thing, y'all. David also remembered who he was. In 1 Samuel 17:34 through 36. But David said to Saul, so listen, David has already been anointed. He's going to be king. Then he goes back out in the wilderness for years. Nobody hears anything. Then all of a sudden, this giant is terrorizing the town, and nobody will fight the giant. This is Goliath. But David said, I'll fight him. Mm-hmm. So then Saul says, bring him to me. Bring this little boy to me. Let me talk to him. Okay, so this is where David says to Saul, again, this is him remembering who he is. This is 1 Samuel 17:34 through 36. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep. And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine, talking about Goliath, will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. So he said, listen, I've fought things bigger than him. I've fought lions, I've fought bears. And for some of you, you're forgetting who you are. You're forgetting the benchmarks you've made, the awards you've gotten for all the work you've done in the past, the way you've broke barriers. You've forgotten all of that. Because maybe at this juncture in the game, the risk is much bigger than it was in your 20s when you're doing it. But I need you to get the same person that you were in your 20s and you got through that risk. You'll get through this one if you allow yourself to look your giant in the eye and remember who you are. Number 2 is you got to stand unapologetic on your strengths. So here's what Saul said back to David. This is 1 Samuel 17:38. So Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head. Now Saul is a king, y'all. And he also clothed him with a coat of mail. David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I can't walk with these, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. See, the king tried to give David what he would use to fight. And David was like, I can't use none of this. David remembered not just who he was, but he stood in his strength, and his strength was in that slingshot. So some of you are overlooking your giftedness, or you're doubting yourself. And some of you, you've been doing it for years. And this was me for years. Some of you, imposter syndrome is coming up. And listen, imposter syndrome is a gnawing feeling of self-doubt and incompetence, coupled with the dread of being exposed as a fraud. Listen, we're doing something bigger than where you already are. That's when your faith has to get activated, which I'm going to walk through in a second. But I need you to understand fear is only coming to try to keep you where you are. But you've got to unapologetically stand in your strengths. Remember who you are. And then the third thing you've got to do is rely on the power of God, which is all about faith. Again, your faith doesn't get activated until you're in the face of fear. So will you choose fear and stand on fear, or will you stand on your faith? Here's what David said in 1 Samuel 17:45. You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, who you have defied. In other words, David said, oh, you think you coming with all this stuff and you're going to beat me? No, boo. I've got the power of God behind me. He's talking to Goliath, by the way. One of my favorite Bible verses, Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Many of you look at what's possible and you feel like you're scrawny like David. But David didn't look at how little he was. He didn't look at what other people thought and what other people might have said. He looked at who he was. He stood in his strengths and he relied on his faith to see him through. So again, fear requires that you conquer your giant. So for many of you, this great thing that you know you're meant to do this year is your giant. And it's time for you to conquer it, especially the things that have been rumbling in you and rumbling in you and rumbling in you. Listen, sometimes I feel like fear is a test. The God allows fear to come to test us. And by the way, you can't even say testimony unless you write the word test first. Come on, somebody. It's when you work through that fear. Come on, Venus and Serena. You think they weren't afraid? Come on, Oprah. You think she wasn't afraid if she had already lost millions of dollars? Come on, Tyler Perry, who was failing and living in a car. I can keep going. Your comfort and your conviction cannot coexist. You know, you hear me say this all the time. So, from outsider's view, what looked impossible that David was going to be able to fight Goliath, it was possible because he did these three things. So, when fear comes up, I want to encourage you success does not equal easy. It doesn't. You going after your big bold goal doesn't equal easy. But you remember who you are. You stand unapologetically on your strength and you rely on the power of God, which is your faith. You'll get through it. All right. So, with that, let's move to number 3 because I can go on and on in number 2. Asking for feedback is also an important step here. Okay. And I'm going to go through this one quickly because I went through all that in fear and I'm always committed to be here 30 minutes. This one's a little longer, but I felt like this one is needed. Okay. So, you want feedback because you want to always have feed forward. You want to take that feedback instead of going back. You take that insight and move it forward, which is why I call it feed forward. Okay. So, as you start talking to people, here are 5 practical steps and really a script that can help you ask for feedback. Okay. Number 1, especially for those of you that are scared to ask for it, set the tone up front. You might say something like, I want to have candid conversation with you to help me improve blank. Or I'm hearing your honesty, or I should say it like this. Your honesty will help me. So can I ask you a couple questions? Again, you're asking for feed forward. Okay. So I'm going to have a candid conversation with you to how to improve. And then of course, you say it the way you say it. Second one is ask specific questions rather. Okay. What's one thing that I do that most limits our team's progress? That's a specific question. What's one thing that I do that limits our team's progress? Or what's one change I can make this month that would matter most? And then you might have to give them permission, be as direct as you need to. And tell me what I need to hear versus what I want to hear. You have to give people permission because sometimes they won't. Third thing here is ask for examples. When they start giving you that, if you're not clear, can you share a recent example with me where I did that? Just because you want to understand what they're sharing. This one, and I'm going to tell y'all, this one is hard for me, is to listen. Now, the reason I say that is I start getting excited when people share stuff. I start thinking of all the questions I have, and I don't want to forget them. I need to sit silent and take it in. You don't need to be defensive, any of that. When you remember who you are, all you're doing is asking for feed forward so you can grow from that place. With me? So active listening means you're actively just listening. You're not trying to figure out what you're going to say next. You're not moving around, none of that. Take it in. And when they finish, you might pause a minute just to take it all in again. And then the last step you will take is summarize. Summarize what they've said. Here's what I heard you say. Just to make sure you're on the same page, and then you want to commit to the next steps. So all of that is really how you begin to overcome your barriers for growth. That's how you begin to overcome your barriers for growth. But the last one is to check in with yourself. The first one is setting time and make sure you put time in your calendar, letting go of fear or not letting it go, but doing it afraid and pushing through it, right? Number 3 is ask for feedback or feed forward, but then check in with yourself. Oftentimes you guys have heard me say this, those of you that have been in our camp for a while, be, do, have. We're human beings, but we're human doings because we focus on what do I need to do. And sometimes it's the being. So you check in with yourself in your being time. You check in with what made me so upset, or what was I afraid about that, or what was coming up for me. You could begin to resolve these 3 areas. Is it time? Is it fear? Is it asking for feedback? Because 9 times out of 10 is one of these 3 areas that you're bumping into, but you got to check in with yourself to be able to go and get it. All right. So as we end this episode and looking at how you lead with ambition and really looking at your leadership growth and impact goals for this year. I want to end with this. Why is this all so important? Genesis 8:22 says, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night shall not cease. So, what seed are you planting for you to grow as a leader this year? Because you got to plant the seed and then you got to water it. Now, listen, it's seed. It should be seed. Time should be two separate words because the seed gets planted, but then it takes time for it to grow. So if you have these big goals, they're not going to happen overnight. Some will, 10% of them may, most of them, 90% of them will not. It's going to take you watering it and watering it. And these are the steps you need to take to create the impact and the growth. If you want to see that seed inside of you, whatever it is, for a shift, a career shift, in promotion, whatever it is, y'all, you've got to take the time and put in the activation. Listen, a seed doesn't grow overnight. And a seed doesn't grow if it doesn't get watered. So this is your opportunity to water that seed of greatness in you. So with that said, that's it for this episode. Listen, this is pillar 3. We got one more pillar to go. I can't wait to hear the insight, the takeaways. There's some things in your show notes that will help you move some of this stuff forward. Sit with yourself in a journal and really dig deep into what's next for you, what's coming up for you, and what's the growth and impact for you on your next level. Not what you've already done. What you've already done has been great. But what's the next level of growth and impact that you can do and can implement if you do the work in this module or in this conversation, in this episode, I should say. With that said, it's always my honor and privilege to be here with you. Of course, I'm going to ask you to share this episode. You never know who will be blessed by it. I said that at the front, but I also want you to share your takeaways, share what you're going to implement, share if you have questions, ask those too. I look forward to being able to answer some of those questions. All right. So with that said, thank you for joining us for this episode. I'll see you on our next one. Bye, y'all.